Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt Podcast. I am Zach, one of the hosts, and the other host with me, as always, is Chris. What's going on, buddy?
Hello, Zach. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jenny. Thank you so much for being here. And hello around the world, everybody. We've got like a wonderful, wonderful treat for our viewers and our listeners. This is going to be so terrific. And thank you so much for joining us, Jenny.
It's my absolute pleasure to be here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're excited to have Jenny back on with us because the first episode she was on with us, if you haven't watched or listened to, please go back and listen to our Picard season 3, episode 5 review of the episode or of the named what's the name again?
Imposters.
Imposters.
Yes.
Oh, old man moment. All right. Anyways, yeah. So she was on with us, and we loved having her on and hearing her thoughts and her perspective on the episode and the Picard as a whole. And we now get a chance to do something we've never done before. So this is a Random Redshirt Podcast first. This is a special episode where we were doing our very first ever virtual art show. And we get a chance to see some of Jenny's absolutely incredible work. If you have not checked out, you're going to see some of it now. If you're listening to this episode, be sure to come onto YouTube and watch the video version or go check out her artwork, which we will get to soon. And so, yeah, once again, Jenny, thanks for coming back on with us. And we cannot wait to dive into your work and your inspirations.
I'm very excited to be here.
So let's go back in the way machine, because we like to do this with a lot of people we have on with us when we interview them, whether they're celebrity guests or they're guest hosts or whatever. And the question we have is, well, let's start with this. When were you first introduced to Star Trek, and when did you become a fan?
Okay. So I, like many other people, watched TOS as a kid with my dad in reruns in the 80s. And I, sometimes I found it kind of like weird or a little bit scary, but I was always really interested. Devil in the Dark really, really sticks in my head as like a, like the Horda and the whole thing, them realizing that it was sentient. And I didn't even entirely understand it as a kid, but I remember being like, oh, this is cool, And then it wasn't until I was about 11 or 12 and I had a long difficult period in school, in elementary school, into junior high school, of getting bullied. Friends that I had been spending time with, we went into junior high and all of a sudden they kind of vanished. And I had, I was eating lunch in the library by myself. I was it was a really rough period for me. And one night I was just, after school, I was just flipping channels and I saw that guy from Reading Rainbow crawling around in the mud. And I was young enough at that point that we kind of didn't just watch anything that was on TV. Like I was almost like I needed to get permission or something. So I saw that and I was like, oh, I think that's that new Star Trek show. And then maybe like a week or two later, I remember what time it was. And I remember flipping back to that channel again. And it was Skin of Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And watching the whole episode and just being enthralled, like I didn't know who anybody was. This one person gets killed. There's this other woman trapped in this thing. There's this monster. Like it was, and then they had Tasha's funeral at the end, and I was crying because I was just, and I was absolutely blown away. And just thinking, I have to keep watching the show. Like I need to know who these people are. I need to know more. So from then on, every day where I am, I'm Atlantic time. So I'm even farther east than Eastern time. So the channel that we got it on, it was like 8:00 at night in reruns, 5 nights a week. And I was there in front of the TV every single day, and then I started going to the library at lunch and looking up science stuff and looking up space stuff and looking up like how to be an astronaut. And, and it became my obsession, my passion, writing stories, and actually meeting a couple of other kids who watched it
Ah,
you know.
yeah.
One of them moved away, so that was like, so there was sort of like a bit of a gap there, but it became something that connected me to people because I started taping all the episodes on VHS every day. So I had like all like this huge collection of reruns on tape. And one of these older kids found out that it was like my friend, her cousin found out that I had all these tapes, and then he and his friends wanted to borrow them. And then the next thing I knew, they were like, "Hey, you want to hang out with us?" And then they had to play D&D, and yeah, like, so my fandom, number one for Star Trek, but also just my fandom, my geekdom in general, just kind of blossomed out of this. And I met a group of friends who I still consider to be, some of the most important people to me in the whole world. Yeah.
And all because of Star Trek.
And all because of Star Trek. Yeah. Yeah. So that, yeah, TNG in particular, was my gateway, and definitely means, man, it means a lot to me,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is wonderful, and that's beautiful. And it's absolutely beautiful, like hearing how Star Trek affects us like in our youth and growing up. So that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there, so with Star Trek, but also with science fiction, or with fantasy, or with those kind of genres, is there something about that you love, that draws you? Because you're not just Star Trek or science fiction, but it's also fantasy in that kind of realm, right? So does that?
I don't know how to describe it other than to say that there's aspects of all of those worlds, all of those ideas that really, like, they really capture my imagination in a way that brings me back to reading books when I was a little kid and feeling like I was being transported into like another time or place, or and I don't even necessarily look at it. I mean, it was an escape for me, absolutely. But it yeah, like, it's just the opportunity to experience not just like other lives, but other worlds, other universes, and just all of the stuff that goes along with that, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, it captures the imagination, right? I think that's how it was with me for Star Trek. I mean, I wanted to be an astronaut since I was a little kid because of Star Trek, the idea of going and flying around in space and, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So besides just being a sci-fi fan and being a Star Trek fan, I also am curious, because we're here to talk about your artwork, right? We're here to talk about this thing that has become such a huge part of your life. When did you start creating art? What was the draw there?
I mean, I was always a kid that was artistic, and we were encouraged to be so. My parents are both artistic. My sister is a professional dancer now. So we're both, yeah, like our whole family. It was never, they never sat us down and gave us the, you need to find a job that you make money at talk. It was never like that in my family. So
I got that.
Yeah.
I did too. So yeah.
Yeah. So I was always, so I was always drawing. I was always, kind of just creating stuff. But I went to school I grew up in a village of 1,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And my school went from primary to grade 12, and art classes stopped in grade 7. So I had no formal art education right through high school. So
you could have fooled us.
So I wanted to go to art college, but I didn't sort of have I didn't have a mentor of any kind. I didn't have sort of the confidence going in, because I hadn't really been given any kind of direction or training. So it took me let's see, I graduated in 97 and I finally applied to the art college here in 2002. So it took me, 5 years to kind of get up the chutzpah to actually apply. And I ended up going to art college, and I have a fine art degree. And that's where I learned to paint, because I had never painted before. Because I was always, like pencil, crayons, and pencils. And so it wasn't until, I went to art college and I learned how to use oil paint. And all the possibilities opened up. But I started off painting landscapes and some portraits and, just sort of more traditional art, let's say.
Yeah.
And and art college is weird. Art college is weird because they don't always, they teach you how to, they teach you the tools, and they teach you technique, but they don't teach you how to make a living as an artist, which is pretty useful information. And they almost, in some cases, there might be a class talking about how to get a grant or how to, get into a gallery show, but there isn't a lot of focus on making money, and actually having a career that's a little more kind of commerce based. So that took some time. So I was a bartender. Well, I actually, at that point I was a server, but I worked in food service, serving and bartending for 20 years. I worked my way through school. I paid my way through school serving at Eastside Mario's. Hey, bada boom, bada bing. And
got to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then went on to bartending for a long time, and just kind of painting on the side. So it definitely, was a long road getting from there to here.
Oh,
yeah. Oh,
enterprise. Yeah.
Zach, so that you're aware, Zach is not a fan of the Enterprise theme song.
I mean,
but
that's
as a song. Okay. To be fair though, Chris, as a song, it's a great song.
Yeah.
But as a intro or as a theme song for a Star Trek series, not so much. I mean, it does kind of fit, but that's a whole nother episode of discussion.
I feel like there's two very strong camps on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I kind of have toes dipped in both sides.
That's fair.
Yeah. Jenny, if I can say, thank you for sharing that, and what a wonderful, I think what a wonderful example that is. So from what you described, because not having access to necessarily formal training in art, right? You went through that, and then the ability to explore it with your own initiative and ambition on art, and then after that, then going to art school, and then working your way through art school, and always keeping that as a passion. First, thank you for sharing that. I think it's a wonderful example, and hopefully, I think that's a great example for other aspiring artists too, because that's
I hope
terrific.
so.
Yeah.
And definitely that it's not just gonna happen overnight. You're gonna get out of school and you are gonna have to pay your bills.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those dang bills.
I know. And it was challenging because as bartending, there's a lifestyle that goes with that. So it really, for a very long time, I would make a painting and sell it ideally, which and I was pretty successful in that respect, like just sort of word of mouth, managing to either do commissions for people or paint a landscape and someone liked it and they bought it. But it was definitely like I was a bartender that painted. For a long time.
Wow. Now, can you talk? So what you've learned now, and what you do, like, can you talk about your specific style, like of painting that you do now? Yeah, and that.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of this body of work, it was funny. My boyfriend at the time asked me to paint him because he'd seen me do portraits that were good. And he asked me to paint him a scene from Stand By Me. Just he's like, for my birthday, you know? And I did it. And I put it up online like on Facebook, like I did with everything else that I painted, and people like freaked out, you know? And I was like, this is the thing. Like, people like this. Okay, cool. You know, because that was super fun. I loved it. And then I painted myself this giant TARDIS interior. You know, like that I actually like kept that lived in my dining room. But yeah, like seeing the response and because all that time I had been thinking, okay, well, you know, and I don't want to be commercial and I don't want to be, but then I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm tired of painting lighthouses and sailboats. You know, I want to paint stuff that I like, you know, and maybe people will like it, you know, maybe I can sell some of it. And then so okay. Sorry, this is like,
all good.
So because it also like crosses over with me getting out of bartending finally, because in order to actually paint, I needed time to paint. So I found a job teaching English online back in 2017 to kids in China. And so I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 days a week, and teach for like 4 hours. And I did that for 5 years. But in the meantime, I'd finish work at 10 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden I had a day, you know, to actually do something with. So with all that extra time, I started really thinking about what are the shows and movies that like really mean something to me, that really, you know, because I didn't want to just be like what's popular, what's you know, so that brought me specifically to that, because out of everything, every movie, every show, there's no other moment that means more to me than that.
Wow.
The all good things scene, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So so along with that, I painted 12 paintings and decided to take them to a local convention. And really focusing on just trying to like articulate the thing that I love about doing this work is not only capturing the moment, but capturing like what it's like to experience the moment. So really trying to capture the lighting, to capture the sort of the feel of the scene, and what it's like for the audience sitting there, and that kind of shared experience that we have, because that's something that I've just been blown away by, getting to talk to other people about all of these shows and movies, and about that, like their favorite scene, or their, you know, why that poker table scene means so much to them is so it's this sort of shared nostalgia that I'm trying to portray.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, and I think, for those of you who are listening to this episode, like I said, I highly recommend you come onto YouTube so you can visually see the stuff that we're going to look at here in a little bit. But yeah, the pieces are stunning. And it's actually funny, how I found you was because Doug had posted something from one of your social media pages, and I saw the artwork, and my jaw just went like hit the floor. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's doing all these paintings and all these scenes and images from some of the most iconic movies and TV shows that I know I'm a fan of. I know many other people are fans of. And my initial thought was, how do I get one of those? Like, how do I get involved with that? Like, how do we get her on our show so she can share this with the world? I mean, we have like 26 different countries that listen in, and how can they get a chance to see this and hear this? And so, yeah, I mean, you have everything up on the wall back there, from the Golden Girls, which I grew up watching with my grandmother, Indiana Jones, All Good Things, X-Files. Oh, don't get me
Yep.
started on X-Files. Oh, Die Hard. Is that Die Hard up there in the corner?
Die Hard in the
Yep.
corner,
Die
Lord of the
Hard.
Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Obviously the unbelievable episode Far Beyond the Stars from Deep
Oh
Space
man, yeah.
Nine. You have Princess Bride on there, Star Wars.
Yep.
I mean, it goes on and
Yep.
on. Like if you're listening or watching, Cheers. If you're
Yeah.
listening or watching and you are part of what we would consider the nerddom or the kingdom
Yep.
or the geekdom, whatever, this is the artist for you, because she paints some unbelievable scenes. And I think you do a great job of capturing those moments and the feelings of those scenes.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's get into this. Let's get into this virtual art show now. How many actual art exhibit display shows in person have you done?
So not as many as you would think, honestly. I've done that local convention, and I mean for this area, it's a big convention. It's like a 10,000 person.
Oh wow.
3-day event. So it's it's a good sized convention. I've done that for 4 years because we missed 2020. I've done a couple other ones locally. Have 2020 kind of got in the way of me getting a little farther afield for those kind of things. But then last year, an arts council in my hometown invited me back to do a big show of like as much as they could fit basically into the space at a national park historic site.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was an amazing opportunity because it was, it's a space, it's the Alexander Graham Bell National Historic Site. So it's hundreds of thousands of people go through every summer. So, and it was there for 4 months.
Wow.
So yeah, while they were looking at the Silver Dart plane and the telephone, they would come around the corner and then there would be the Golden Girls and but it was incredible because I got so much exposure. I sold work, and even since then on social media, having people popping up and saying, "Oh my gosh, I saw your show this summer. It's so cool. I found you on social media." Like it's been amazing. It was really a game changer, definitely. So
yeah, networking for sure. I think Chris, we found that as well, networking with our podcast, even just going to the Shuttle Pod Show's live event down in LA and networking with folks and getting to like sit and hang out with Walter Koenig for like 20 minutes and talk is something I'd never thought I'd get to do. So that's great that you had these opportunities to network with your art. And we, like I said, I really hope that that continues as people listen and watch this episode with you, that you get more exposure, even more. Not that you necessarily need it, but more exposure.
More.
Because I think it's great. So, all right, let's start out. Let's start with any of the original artwork you have in the room. If you want to bring that to the camera and kind of show our audience. Again, if you're listening, you got to go on YouTube to see the full effect of this, obviously. But
so let's just because I have it right here.
And Zach, I'm gonna try and enlarge it, see if it works on. Hopefully, this works on the recording, so I can.
Oh yeah, that'd be great if you could do that. Yeah. Put me in the minimize me. That'll help.
So this, just as an example, is one of my most recent paintings. Clearly the gang from Cheers. But just again, like this one was a particular lighting challenge because it's got like the bright studio lights coming down on their heads, so you've got like really cool kind of shadows and all that great reflection on the bar, just all of that kind of atmospheric that's really fun to do. Like
my parents used to watch Cheers when I was growing up, so I've seen a lot of Cheers, and it's, I mean, if you cannot see it, if you're listening, you cannot see it. The realism on this, it's like you're looking at an actual picture. It's so unbelievable. It's so unbelievable.
Thank you.
It's terrific.
So thank you. So that's one of the newer ones. I also just finished, so you can see I've got the scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark up there.
Oh yeah,
that is actually a canvas print, which is something I can do now.
So can you explain the difference between, because I don't know, is the difference between like a canvas print versus like a your normal type of print that you'd buy?
Yeah, absolutely. So just as an example, so behind me here, we've got the All Good Things poker game. Come on, tilt back this way. And yeah, so it's actually like a stretched canvas on a frame. And it's, you know, like archival quality ink, and it's like a, you know, so it's like a more of an investment piece, if that makes sense. At this point, I keep my prints at a lower cost, just so that I, you know, especially doing the in-person shows, it's just really nice to be able to, you know, have an option for people who want, you know, who want to spend a little extra money, but also something for people who don't, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I have just so like, you know, and it's just on a really nice on a nice heavy paper, a few different sizes.
It'd be amazing to have the whole cast sign that.
I'm gonna try.
That'd be so amazing.
Actually, LeVar Burton signed the original painting.
Oh, did he really?
He was at the convention the year that I painted it and sold it, and they took it and got him to sign it.
Did he give you any feedback?
He did, actually, because I gave him a little copy of it when I got a picture taken with him, and he was just like, because that was after he had seen the original, and he was like, "Oh my God, that was you!" He said, "This is amazing," in that LeVar like voice. I was just, ugh. And then 2 years later, my Etsy shop cha-chinged, and it was actually on Star Trek Day 2020, and I looked and it said L. Burton. And he bought that size print that theoretically was in his house. Actually, no, since we're name dropping, actually before that, Rod Roddenberry also found my shop and had initially purchased the 2 foot by 2 foot version, but then messaged me to say, "Is there any way to do this at like 48 by 48, like to blow it up huge?" And I was like, "I will do anything you want. Yes." You know, so we ended up doing, I think it ended up being like 40 by 40 inches, basically limited by the printer. And that went to his home in Hawaii, where I think it's in his conference room.
Wow. I was going to ask you that really quickly. So do you print all your own prints, or are they outsourced to somebody else?
They're outsourced. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if you had like a printer that you did them, or if it was.
I would love to do that.
Probably expensive as all get out, I'd imagine.
That's the thing at this point, because mostly I'm working, if I was doing more shows, that volume, I would definitely want to have a printer on hand, but because the volume that I'm at, it's working pretty well to outsource. Yeah, like I have a pretty good system set up at this point.
Gotcha.
I want to make sure our listeners know that. So your shop is still, it's on Etsy right now. So our listeners can go.
It is actually not.
Oh, not okay.
Okay.
I do have a shop on Etsy, but all of my links go to, I have my own shop now.
Your own webpage, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll make sure to get into all your links and contact stuff here before the show's over, for sure. Yeah, okay. So you have the Cheers one's an original. And what was the other one that you had that was an original in there?
Cheers is an original, and actually the card behind me here is also an original. Maybe
wow.
using my cord here.
So for those of you who haven't seen it, if you go on her social media pages, she does some like time-lapse videos of some of her paintings, and I believe this is one of the time-lapse videos you have.
It is, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Chris, you need a copy of Sir Patrick in your ready room.
Yes. Yes.
It would look perfect next to that Enterprise E, man.
Yeah.
And actually,
that thing's great.
A friend of mine was actually a script supervisor on Discovery, and worked with Jonathan Frakes, and gave him a copy of this and a small copy of the poker game as well. And one of his comments, I mean, aside from saying that he really liked it, he was like, "Oh, she got Patrick's hand right." Yes. Like,
cool.
Like, because he's had arthritis for years, right? Yep. And his fingers are a little bit, Yeah,
you could see it. Oh my gosh, the likeness is just.
He's like, oh.
The likeness is amazing. Okay, I want to brag a little bit, not about me. So I've bought some prints, lithographic prints and things like that from Lightspeed Fine Art. They do a lot of that stuff, right? And they have amazing work, but I will say I think your stuff trumps theirs by tenfold.
Thank you.
And I love Lightspeed Fine Art. Don't get me wrong. I'm not
no shade to Lightspeed.
Yeah, I'm not dropping their name on here to steal away from your thunder. I'm just saying like their stuff is great, but I think your artwork trumps theirs.
Wow.
Just so you know.
Oh my God. Thank you. Cheers. Wow.
Oh, I even see a little baby Grogu back there too.
Yes.
For our Star Wars fans out there.
Mm-hmm. I did a set. Oh, here's another name drop for you. Yeah. So, and this is actually a canvas print. This is just a good example of
awesome.
So Dean Cundy, who is the renowned cinematographer from Back to the Future and Jurassic Park and The Thing, and worked with Favreau on The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett.
Wow.
And he hadn't worked in Star Wars before, and he is apparently obsessed with Baby Yoda, and his wife is a family friend. So they ended up commissioning me to do four of these little babies for him.
Oh wow!
Oh my gosh! Yeah. My kids are obsessed with Grogu as well.
Oh my god! They were so fun because I usually work on a bigger scale. It was really fun to just kind of like focus in on these little character shots. That was awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I have more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please take it away. This is your show, Jenny. So take it away.
So I just finished this one. This is also a commission for a gentleman in the UK.
Oh.
And yeah, pretty
also from Raiders, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't varnished it yet, so you can see sort of it's a little bit uneven in the texture at this point, but once I pop some varnish on that, it'll be like.
So does the varnish, I mean, it seals and evens things out, but it is also a way of protecting the paint underneath it?
It is, yeah. Okay. So it's number one, it's a protectant for sure. And then it also, because oil paint, I could talk about oil paint, but oil paint, depending on the paint, depending on the pigment, you get areas that'll be a little bit more dull or a little bit more shiny. And it just kind of like equalizes it, but it also helps bring the colors out more. You can see I have a couple of varnish videos. I'll actually post another one when I do this one, that you can see when you take the varnish over it, it just kind of pops. Like it's really, really awesome. It's just super fun and like really satisfying to do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a nice it's a nice finishing touch. Definitely. Yeah. And what else? You had mentioned Caprica 6 earlier, and I thought I would. This is just a print at this point, because I actually did just sell the painting to a gentleman in Belgium. So that's on the other side of the ocean, but
yeah, I may or may not have had a crush on Trisha Helfer. May or may not have back in the day.
Everybody had a crush on Trisha
Helfer. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Something about that. Something about her in that series and that red dress and her appearing in Gaius's imagination and talking to him and
Well, and just especially just that first scene where she, the humans have gone to meet the Cylons and they haven't showed up for how many years, and then all of a sudden she walks in and just
they're Speaking of Gaius, this is from the convention this year.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic. That was great seeing him show up in Picard last season.
Oh, yes, right? Oh, I love James Callis. He's a fantastic actor. His arc and range as Gaius Baltar in Battlestar Galactica was just incredible.
Yeah.
But,
oh man.
I saw the picture you put on social media of the actual painting of the Caprica 6, and it's stunning.
Thank you. Actually, since you mentioned it, I'll grab Cisco here. And again, this is a print on paper that I just mounted just for. But yeah, just a little more close up on there.
Yeah, that is simply
so this
spectacular.
Was a particularly this was a really special project because it was a commission.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioned by a gentleman in California for his wife, who had not been a Star Trek fan until she saw Deep Space Nine and really connected with Sisko, that episode in particular.
She's got good taste, so what can I say?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was just really like, and yeah, it's been really, really special. Again, just making these connections with people, you know, and it's not about necessarily what we have in common in our regular lives, but just how these properties and these shows and these characters have impacted all of us so much. It's just the most amazing kind of bonus of doing this, you know, that I get to make those connections with people. It's really, really incredible.
Would you mind showing the audience the print you have back there from Star Wars in the Millennium Falcon cockpit there with all the characters?
Yes, I will. Yeah, and that piece, where are you? Falcon. Sorry, I've got my little I've got like a bin full of prints here. So this is, make sure I can actually like see it here. So it's this one
is, yeah, it's like seeing the image in the movie. It's so
thank you.
Yeah.
And the original painting is 4 feet long.
Oh my god!
So it's close to. I mean, it's not quite full size, but it's pretty close. And it just, I mean, it took forever.
I'll bet.
To paint. It took a really long time to paint.
Yeah, the details you have back there with the buttons and everything.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The light shot, the light effects on C-3PO's armor are just,
yeah, that was. It took forever. But again, so satisfying. Like just, and it's cool too because I listen to podcasts, but I also often like listen to shows, you know, shows that I've seen 100 times. Like I go back to Star Trek, I go to, you know, Stargate or whatever. And there's certain pieces of certain paintings that I look at, you know, the detail on her coat and it brings back like, oh, I was watching such and such episode when I painted that, like Benny's shirt here. I was listening, almost all of this, I was listening to Will Wheaton talking on his audiobook, talking about the TNG cast and talking about like, and I just have that like, it's just a weird kind of imprint that I end up with certain pieces, not every piece, but just certain things just kind of, it's just cool because it all means so much to me too, you know?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I really love how each of these captures a particular moment. And so I think, you know, that for each of us it evokes like a certain feeling, like and can bring us back to that moment where we experienced it, right? I had seen some of your work with Aliens and the Goonies. And the Princess Bride, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And if we have seen those in our youth, then these bring us back like directly to it, like in the fondness of our memories with that. So that I love because these capture the feeling and evoke that like so wonderfully. Thank you.
I really appreciate that because that, like I say, that's very much what my intention is. You know, it's not about a cash grab or like you know, I'm going to paint this because it's cool, you know, like it really, you know, for the most part, like it's memories. I'm painting memories.
Yeah.
That's beautifully said. Painting memories. Yes.
They really are. They definitely capture it. Are you okay if I mention a commission?
Oh, please, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get a commission for those of you listening from Jenny this summer sometime. I have to admit, Jenny, I'm actually starting to go back and forth on the two ideas we've talked about. If you don't mind me mentioning the ideas.
Not at all. No, not at all.
you know, either the idea of capturing, which I know this is something you wanted to do for a long time, is capturing the image of Deep Space Nine with the wormhole and the Defiant and stuff like that, and that kind of space scene and everything. But there's also that moment from Hard Time with O'Brien in the prison and his dealings with PTSD and everything, and capturing that moment and seeing these images, knowing you could capture that moment with the lighting and his you know, mental torture that he goes through in that episode, which captures the overarching idea of O'Brien must suffer at all times. I'll be honest, I'm kind of going back and forth. I have no clue which one right now. I think
We've got
still,
time.
yeah, we still got time. I'm leaning towards the space scene, but O'Brien being my favorite, that might have to just be done, but maybe at a later time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't tell you how excited I am for that. I'm super excited.
I'm super excited, and I'm very grateful. Thank you for trusting me with such an important project. You know, I mean, that's one of the things that I, you know, when somebody messages me and says, you know, like this moment means so much to me, can you paint it for me? It's, you know, that's amazing. It's really, really amazing. You know, I mean, and yes, it's nice to paint people's kids, and I do that too. But I don't know, it's just that, because I know what these things mean to me, and it's really cool to have somebody trusting me with that, you know, those memories,
yeah, I mean, Chris and I have talked about this before on the podcast about nostalgia and how nostalgia is very real. In fact, I think it was in season 1, Chris, of our podcast, where we talked about collecting, whether it's an addiction or a hobby. And but collecting in its very nature deals with nostalgia, right? Something that means so much to you, whether, like, for me, it's, as a kid, it's Star Trek, it's the Ninja Turtles, it's Ghostbusters, those types of things that have very real, powerful nostalgia. And Star Wars too. I mean, I grew up on Star Wars as much as I did Star Trek. So those things are really important. And I think what's so great about your artwork is, you know, you have some people who are very, I don't want to say this in a negative term, but like artsy, right? Like they kind of have a take and they'll do something that's not, it's not a realistic look. It's just kind of their own spin, or a Picasso type of a deal where they're throwing stuff on a, you know, thing and making it into some kind of paintings. But these things, your images capture that feeling of nostalgia, which I think is great. And I do see, is there a print back there with Raffi on it? Because we've been talking about Star Trek Picard.
And actually, that's an original. Let me actually.
Oh, it's an original too. Fantastic.
Yeah, let me. Back in my ears.
For those of you who haven't listened to the episode yet, go back and listen to our Picard season 3, episode 5 review, because we obviously talk a lot about Picard, and we had Jenny on with us during that episode review. And now you have some Picard artwork here.
And like I said, Raffi, I've loved Raffi right from the start. Like, I mean, Michelle Hurd is like,
yeah, she's phenomenal.
Amazing. She's just amazing. And there was a project that Laz Marquez started a couple of years back called Women Make Trek. And it was a fan art kind of collection. So it was just people submitting work. Yeah, of just all the Star Trek women. And this was my piece for that project.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And is that a scene when she's talking to Dr. Girardi?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I recognize like, the blonde wavy hair that she's talking to.
Yeah, kind of. What was she saying? So like, Agnes, are we looking at an emergency here? Like, this is sort of after she killed Bruce Maddox, but before they knew that she killed him, so she was just like freaking out and ate all the cake. Like, you know.
Well, okay. So for those of you watching or listening, that's how good her artwork is. You can recognize the character by some wavy hair and nothing else. That's how good it is.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, and that's actually a good example of, I did that again with, I don't know if you guys are Supernatural fans or not.
Yeah, I've watched many seasons of Supernatural.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So that's, you know, Lucifer, but I did the sort of like blown out Sam situation. And that's, of course, I mean, you can't miss the sideburns, right? Like but God, his face is so good. Like his, Mark Pellegrino, man.
Wow.
Oof, that guy. Yeah. God, he's good. So yeah, so I mean, I've done several supernatural pieces. I guess I can't show you Lucifer and not show you Sam and Dean. That seems
Iconic brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, the boys and the car.
And yeah, important to have the car.
Yeah. I almost feel like the car deserves its own its own shot at some point. And while we're at it, Hardy Boys. Hello,
Ooh, the Hardy Boys. Nice.
Kind of. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Castiel and Crowley. So yeah, so I mean my fandoms, I mean, as you've seen,
far reaching.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Versus just kind of bottling yourself into one thing. You're painting these, like you said, you mentioned it's great. You're painting all these things that mean so much to people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's what's great. And you're capturing it too. You're capturing those moments, and that's why it's, besides the quality, that's why it's so appealing.
Yeah. So absolutely.
Yeah. So if you were to, and if you are allowed or wanted to share, is there in the scenes that in your future work that you're contemplating, is there a scene that you're like, oh, that you haven't done yet, that you're like, oh, I really want to do this, or I'm contemplating, I'm really want to do this in the future? Do you have?
Yeah, I have a list. I have an extensive list. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I could paint Star Trek scenes just based on what's in my head forever and never run out of, because when I'm just thinking about like different characters, I want to do different, I mean, I want to do Data, but I also want to do Data and Geordi, but I also want to do Data and Geordi doing Sherlock Holmes,
Oh yeah.
It's there. Oh God, there's just so many. It's crazy. I'm doing, actually, I just got commissioned to do a shot of Riker on the battle bridge from Best of Both Worlds.
Oh,
I know, I'm so excited.
Now I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so that's a huge thing. But I also want to do original series, right? But I also want to do like Undiscovered Country, or and it just balloons from there. So I mean, if I ever found a wealthy patron to just give me a monthly stipend, I would paint Star Trek for forever.
Well, if I win the lotto, I know where some of that money's going.
Thank you. Fantastic. Yeah. So, but in addition to that, there's all these other projects I want to do. Stargate SG-1. I want to do, oh my God, there's The Expanse. I want to, oh my gosh, what else? Things that I love. I want to do like
Deep Space Nine
Gables from the 80s. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Deep Space Nine. More Deep Space Nine. Voyager. I'm just thinking like beyond Star Trek, what else? Oh my gosh, like I literally have a massive list,
I was thinking, sorry.
No, please go.
I was just thinking, I don't know. Have you done any scenes from Ghostbusters?
Not yet, no. And that is
I was thinking like the scene where in the first movie where all of them are shooting into at Gozer.
Yes.
Right. At that scene with the portal and their backs, and they got
That's exactly the one I'm thinking, and I would love to do it kind of at the same size that I did the Millennium Falcon, like.
Oh yeah, like a really long, like landscape. Yeah, that would look amazing.
I need to do some screen grabbing because it's, like usually when I have an idea, I start kind of just floating around and seeing what's out there that I can, but sometimes I actually have to get into the actual film and grab it from there, because what's online isn't always useful. Although I've been finding, as I've been doing this more, as I've just been doing more portrait work, and turns out if you just keep painting, you get better at it, huh?
I was going to ask you what do you find it? Okay, so TOS, Enterprise, Next Gen, and then all the new stuff is all on Blu-ray or HD, but Voyager and DS9 are not, and they're not planning on doing them anytime soon. Have you found doing any scenes or characters and stuff from those series in a low resolution? Have you found it difficult in capturing the detail in low resolution?
Well,
or from low resolution, I should say.
For example, the Far Beyond the Stars piece came from a low res screen cap. So I've found some sort of ways to deal with it. I've found that the more I've painted and the more that I've just worked from different photographic resources, I've just learned to find the details, even if I'm looking at a pixelated mess. Actually, just this won't really fit in the this gigantic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest piece that I just finished. Super detailed.
Wow.
Like really.
It looks just like Jack Nicholson. My goodness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that actually the image that I worked from was super pixelated.
And that's an original or a print?
This is an original. This is
oh
an
my
original
gosh.
painting. Yeah.
How
it's big.
Yeah. How long did from beginning to end? And forgive me, I'm ignorant on this, but from beginning to end, like, do these projects take, and do you is it one project at a time, or are there multiple ones going at the same time, or how does that?
It kind of depends on a few different things. I mean, this I worked on and off for, gosh, probably, I think I started it around April last year.
Yeah.
And just kind of kept picking at it because I didn't really have like a hard deadline for it. So I, did a little bit on it and then left it sitting for 4 months and then came back to it. And so it really depends on what I'm working on. I often will take on a project and I have like 2 weeks to finish it. So, and in that case, I'm probably looking at least 30 hours for, the sizes that I've shown you here.
Yeah.
Definitely that much. Sometimes a lot more, depending on how detailed it is, and sometimes even just sometimes it just is a little more of a wrestling match, especially with likenesses. Sometimes they just come together like it's like painting Janeway up there.
Yeah.
Like I did her face in a day. No problem. It just came together like it was like she was helping. But I painted other faces. I'm trying to think of like a good example.
But the Golden Girls one. The Golden Girls said there's 4 faces on there.
And that actually was the blurriest picture I've ever worked from.
Oh wow. Would you mind showing that up close to the camera?
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Again, actually,
gosh.
here, I'll unplug. That's easier. It's easier. And once again. So and let me plug back in. Here we go. Can you hear
and
me?
This is this is a canvas print?
This is a canvas print.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So and it actually is a little bit, if you get kind of close in, you can see that the detail is a little less sharp.
It still looks amazing.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've realized. I mean, Sophia, if you look at her eyes there, it's just a couple of little marks, right? But I've realized that even if I have an image that isn't super detailed, I can still pull the details out. I mean, it's them.
Yeah, it's definitely them. Yeah. 100%.
This painting took quite a while. The original was this size. Just with there's a lot here.
80s and 90s floral and
and like the food processor and all the stuff in the background, and just it was a very detailed piece. The Picard painting probably took, I think I was actually in a crunch for that, and I think I managed it in about 4 or 5 days. So but that's also kind of marathon painting.
What's the if you can recall, what's the most amount of time you've ever spent on one piece? You know, like in total number of like hours spent.
I would say it's the giant TARDIS painting. Which is in my, I mean, I can take you to my dining room if you want to see.
Is it that big?
It's it's
and that's
3
one you
feet by
painted
4
for
feet.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can show you the print.
The print, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's the 11th Doctor's TARDIS. So it's
He said the 11th Doctor's?
Yeah. So it's like the super get out of the way there.
Oh, you got such good taste because that's my doctor.
Thank you.
That's my doctor.
So, oh gosh, I'm getting all the reflection. But yeah, that one, I love that particular TARDIS because it always made me, looking at that TARDIS always made me feel the way that I did when I had a really good picture book when I was a kid. And I would spend like all the extra time just like looking at all, all the stuff that was happening in the background. And that TARDIS kind of gives me that feeling. So yeah, that took me... Oh my God. And and again, I did that because I had that piece in a show at a gallery here. And I had to have it finished, and I painted basically like the whole console area in like 16 hours, but of just straight painting.
My gosh. So the whole thing took you how much time you estimate?
Oh, 100 hours maybe.
Wow.
It took...
Holy cow.
Yeah, it took a long, because it's
wow.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're working on a canvas that's 4 feet long, but you're using a brush that's, like the size of a pencil lead.
You're having to like ride a bike from one end to the other of the canvas to paint it, right? I mean, that's how big it is. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly.
Man. That's that work is incredible. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Thank you.
I did want to ask too. So let me ask this one more question first, and then we'll jump in here to your social media pages and where we can find everything. Okay, so if there's somebody out there, you talked about how Star Trek's inspired you and these other science fiction shows and imagination have inspired you. And I hope that people who are watching or listening to this in our audience across literally the globe may be inspired if they're thinking about being an artist. I guess the question I'd have for you is what advice would you give to somebody who is an inspiring artist, or what advice maybe you would go back and give to yourself when you were drawing and you weren't, doing the paintings and stuff yet? What would your advice be to somebody who wants to, do what you're doing full time?
I mean, number one, just keep doing it. Keep practicing, it took me 10 years to realize, oh, if I just keep doing this, I'm going to get better at it. Cool. Like, I don't know why that sort of was a revelation to me, but at one point I thought, oh my gosh, I think I'm getting better at faces. Like, this is, so absolutely just keep doing it. You don't have to go to art school. If you have, there's, especially online now, I mean, basically everything I learned at art school, you can learn on YouTube. Like, and there are so many resources and so many great teachers and so many artists just giving free information, I know a lot of people are kind of scared of oil paint. A lot of artists are sort of like, it's scary or it's toxic or it's really not. Like, it's a wonderful medium to work with. I can't sing its praises enough, honestly. And there's all kinds of resources online that can, give you a really good idea. If you have a medium that you're not comfortable with, like, just try it out, feel it out. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But and don't fall into the trap of feeling like art isn't something that everybody can do, because art's for everyone, and that's something that I love about doing this work, is that it feels like it's for everyone,
Yeah. Maybe not me. The best I can do is stick figures. I can't do much past that. I've never been artistic like that. So I'm probably the one exception to that, but
but I mean, honestly, it's like whether we make something with our hands, what you've created here with this podcast, like, there's there's creation, there's creativity, there's imagination, there's like, we're all artists in our own ways, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? Where can people find you, like on your work and your social media
I'm
pages?
all over the place. So straight up, you can find my website, jennyrjohnson.com. So that's got my portfolio, links to my shop. But you can also find me, I'm all over social media. So on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok, I am Jenny R. Johnson Art. And on Twitter, I'm just Jenny R. Johnson because the art doesn't fit. But yeah, on all of my social media, I post new work. I post time lapses. I'm giving little, sneak peeks of what I'm working on. I've got a bunch of new work coming. So if you want to check that out and come follow me at your preferred social destination, please do. And I also have a long-awaited newsletter coming out this week. There, I've said it.
Hey.
Which you can sign up for on my website.
You heard it here first, people. You heard it here first in the Random Redshirt Podcast.
Now I have to do it.
Yeah. Now you're stuck.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. I think, having looked over your social media pages a few different times and checked out some of the different stuff you share in there, I think my favorite thing on there is probably the time lapse videos, because I love watching everything come together, because the satisfaction of seeing the completed thing and watching it from the very beginning is real. I mean, I know it's time lapse, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's really neat to watch that whole
absolutely.
piece.
I love watching them because it's a completely different experience for me, because it eliminates all of the the pain and suffering and thinking and
Yeah,
because it looks like I just know exactly what I'm doing the whole way through. It's wonderful. It's a funny thing actually with social media, because you're dealing with the algorithms and what's popular, what people will watch, and I've gotten so much feedback from people recently saying that they want to see the time lapses, and I've been fighting the algorithm not pushing time lapses out, so I'm gonna just start posting them again. And
yeah, please do, because they're great. Yeah, it's cool because you watch a time lapse and you're like, okay, like partway into the video, you're like, how the heck is that going to become that? And then you're like, wait, it does. I mean, like I would get halfway, I could get like a third of the way into it and go, I don't know what I'm doing, I quit. But it does. It's so cool to watch that transition over time, and you're going, how is this piece and how is this going to get over to this and get to that? And it does, and it's so cool.
Yeah, and watching it go through the ugly stage and then come back out and like survive.
It's awesome. Those are my favorite ones of the time lapse videos.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're really fun to watch.
I appreciate that.
Keep doing those.
Yeah,
keep doing
I will.
Those are great.
Oh, I've got a ton of them.
Yeah,
I've got a ton.
Yes. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for coming on with us and sharing your artwork. I hope that those of you watching and listening are inspired. Please go on and follow her on social media. Check out her website to order prints and everything. And the last question I do want to ask you is, if someone like me, which we've already talked about it offline, but if someone like me or anybody else wanted to do a commission through you to paint their favorite scene or their favorite character or their favorite Star Trek series, like DS9, what I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. Chris is going to kill me later, but that's okay. What's the process for doing a commission through you?
First of all, you contact me and let me know that you're interested. Number one, I have actually a page on my website where you can take a look at some of the work that I've done previously, and there's a contact form that will get you right to me. But basically, I usually require like a 25% deposit just to hold the spot. Right now, I have a very limited number of spots available for this year, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I got to talk to you about a Christmas commission too. Some more about that too.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that, because I have the piece that I'm doing for Doug Drexler for Ships of the Line for the calendar. Needs to be done for January, and I need to give myself some Time to make that happen. So my Christmas docket is going to be very limited this year. But basically just, we need to do a deposit. I ship worldwide. I've just shipped to Belgium last week. I'm shipping to the UK this week. I've shipped as far as Australia. And we settle up the balance on the back end once the piece is complete and everybody's happy. And so you can get a hold of me through my website.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, everybody, if you're interested in a commission, it sounds like you better do it soon, because the spots are limited, or you might be waiting until 2047 before you can get a commission in. So be sure to do that. But Chris, this was awesome, man. This is the first special episode we've ever done with a virtual art show, and I had an absolute blast.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Thank you, Jenny.
You guys are the best.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We appreciate you listening and coming on the podcast.
Man, yeah.
It's been a blast. We really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on the last episode and reviewing Picard with us. That was great. So
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Absolutely. So yes, again, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Be sure to go on to Facebook and Instagram and check us out there. And on YouTube, we will be sure to link Jenny's social media pages on ours, so you can easily find those in accordance with this episode, and check out all of her amazing work, and go on and order some of her prints. That's an order, Red Shirts. Go do it. And we thank you so much for watching and listening as always. And we will catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.